hadn't always lived in Nottingham. In fact, I was born and raised in Sheffield. And it was when I was growing up that I had a book called Strange South Yorkshire, Mysteries and Strange Goings-on in the Valleys of the Don. And one of the stories covered in this book was the Dragon of Wantley, which I thought was amazing because that meant that Sheffield had its very own dragon story. And so, without further ado, let's give it a go. Once, long before Sheffield became a city, to its northwest, up at Wharncliffe Crags was a cave, and in this cave lived a dragon, a great big thing, with a long neck and a long, long tail which whipped left to right, and some say it had a barbed end or a spike. It had 2 great wings on its shoulders, and long claws, long jaws, and wasn't a fire-breathing dragon. No, this was a dragon which seemed to be continuously hungry and thirsty, and so it ate anything it came across. Sheep, cattle, goats, trees, even said to eat houses and churches. So strong were its jaws and claws that it could rend and break with its mouth brick, stone and mortar. Of course, the residents of this area became very concerned. So concerned, especially when 3 children had been eaten as quickly and as normally as one would eat an apple, that they went to a local knight, More of More Hall. Now at this point in the story, usually the dragon-facing knight is usually a virtuous character, full of bravery, daring do, and also good manners, and full of virtuousness, to be a paragon of goodness. More of More Hall wasn't that kind of man. More of More Hall was a very boorish and very boring sort of character. He had a big thick beard, he was well stockily built, and his hands were so large that when they curled they became huge, ham-fisted size fists, where, of course, to go with his temperament, if you were even to look at him wrong, he would just smash you in the face. It was even said that More of More Hall killed his own horse by grabbing it onto the mane with 2 hands and swinging it around his head until it died. And then he ate the horse, except for the head. So yeah, nice character this More of More Hall. And so the villagers and residents of this whole area of Wharncliffe, they approached More of More Hall and they brought up whatever belongings they had, saying, Please, just get rid of the dragon, just kill it, just get whatever it costs, just get rid of it. More of More Hall sat in his chair and stroked his beard. Right, what more can you tell me about this dragon then? And one young boy comes up to him and says, Please, some more. The dragon, it lives in a cave, and near the cave there's a well where it comes out and has a drink of water. And More of More Hall looked to this young boy. It's got a cave, has it? Right. In that case, I'll do it. What are you willing to pay? All of you. As he looks at the crowd, murmurs, jitterings, all about the people. And of course they produce whatever they can, saying, well, this is what we can afford, so this is it. We've got some money left, there's some sheep that are still around, we've got salt and pepper. And More of More Hall looked to them all and looked at the meagre offerings and said, be off with it, it's all right. I'll take care of your dragon, but the price for it is a beautiful young maiden. She's got to have long black hair, pale skin, glittering blue eyes, and lips as red as roses. Bring me such a lass, and I'll kill your dragon for you. And again, with murmurings in the crowd, I'm sure that we can find you such a girl. Yeah, all right, we'll see what we can come up with. And indeed, that night, a young lady of such a description was taken to the chambers of More Hall. Remember, I said that he wasn't a virtuous character. And so she was kept awake all night. massaging and anointing More of More Hall with oil into all of his muscles. All of his muscles in his head, on his cheeks, on his jaw, his throat, his neck, his shoulders, his arms, his back, his belly, his bum. And so the very next day, More of More Hall got onto his horse and didn't go to the Dragon's Cave. No. Instead, he went all the way to the town of Sheffield. And he came back a few hours later with such a sight. You see, More of More Hall, upon hearing about the dragon and hearing all the horrors that this dragon was doing, had a plan. And so he didn't have a steed. He didn't have a great huge sword. He didn't have a lance or a shield. He didn't even have a club. What he did have was his armour, specially crafted. And his armour, from head to toe, was covered in spikes. Big, long, thick spikes, about 6 to 4 inches long. On his helmet, on his shoulder, on his arm, on his breastplate, on his legs, and even the armour on his feet came at long, sharp points. And so he looked like a huge metal hedgehog, just walking up, back to the area. And of course, people were amazed. Dogs looked at him and growled. Cats looked at him and hissed and ran away. And all the while, people would gather behind him, looking at the spectacle of this spiky, porcupine-like individual. And of course, everyone thinks that he's going to go straight to the Dragon's Cave. Well, he will, but first he goes into the local pub and he grabs himself 6 pots of ale and downs them all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then he takes a quarter of water and drinks that too. To the point where people are thinking, bleeding hell, is he actually going to kill this dragon or what? And even if he does, is he going to be too drunk to even fight it? More of More Hall, he was well built. Those 6 pints of water, they'll sort him out right. So he leaves the pub and goes all the way to the Dragon's Cave with all these people following him. So he gets to the Dragon's Cave. He looks to the east. He looks to the west. And there he sees the well the little boy told him about. This great round well. And so, More of More Hall, he looks over the well and down it. He can't see a dragon, but he can hear something. A lapping of water. And so he creeps over and shouts, "Bo!" And the dragon comes shooting up out of the water. Its wings stretch out, its claws open up, and it growls. Now, like I said, the dragon itself wasn't a fire breather, but it did indeed have smoke coming out of its mouth. And it had a different weapon entirely. It didn't even lash out its spiky barbed tail either. Instead, with its wings open, its legs up, it arched back its tail and revealed its bumhole. Because then the dragon shot a stream of poo straight at More of More Hall. More of More Hall dodged out of the way. Looks at this stream of brown, horrible, stinking effluence, and then raises his fist and says, "Ah, you disgusting, you are, dragon! Come on then, let's have you!" And everyone shouts and cheers, and everyone's really loving this spectacle because More of More Hall charges towards the dragon charges towards More of More Hall, and the two great beings clash with each other. Spike scrapes against armour, spikes rail against the scales of the dragon. Claws wrench at the breastplates, and then More's fists slam the dragon up the nose, on the throat, on the belly, and this fight goes on for 2 whole days. So long, in fact, that people will just stay up all these days and nights just watching. And More of More Hall eventually is getting tired. He's getting slow. He's getting heavy, and he needs to find the weak spot. So, dear viewer, if you were to kill a dragon, what would you aim for? Aim for the eye, always a good idea. Aim for the jaw, get a nice spike right under there, go into the brain, job done. Would you go for its throat? In some versions of the story, that's exactly what happens, but not this one. You see, the dragon was so well scaledy armoured that simple blows and spikes don't pierce it. Instead, Hall thinks of the only weak spot he could have seen. And so he positions himself. The dragon rears up. It spreads its wings, it opens its claws, and then dives down. As the dragon dives down, Hall slides underneath and swings his foot so it goes right into the dragon's bumhole. That's right, that long spike that would come out of his foot like I told you about. It goes right into the dragon's bumhole and the dragon screams. It screams and yelps and screeches and twists itself once, twice, thrice, 6 times until it ends up having one massive blowing of poo absolutely everywhere. Poo, blood, gut, intestines, all of it. Until eventually the dragon drops dead. And so, More Hall became the champion of that area, and to this very day, legend has it that the dragon can be seen. For when you go onto Wharncliffe Crags, you will see stones up on the high that look like a tail, a body, a neck, and a head. And so, should you go around the area and ever encounter a flesh and blood dragon, just remember, look for the sweet spot.